What is the lowest your grocery bill can be while still fulfilling your basic calorie, protein, and other macronutrient needs? There are plenty of extreme food budget challenges on this site that show creative ways of surviving for just $20 per week, $10 per week, $7 per week. So here's my $6.25 week. Picture this scenario. You just moved into an empty apartment. You only have $10 to your name and you don't have a credit card. So you go to Target. With almost 2,000 locations in the US, chances are most Americans probably have a Target close by. And you buy just 4 things: a 5-pound bag of flour, 2 pounds of pinto beans, a 48-ounce bottle of vegetable oil, and a pound of salt. This sets you back $6.25 and you have $3.75 left over. Now this is the part of the video where you scratch your head and say, "That's not enough food," or "That's boring." And I agree with the latter statement. But this is not about delicious food. This is about survival. This is about saving what little money you possibly can now so that you can afford to stock up your pantry and buy in bulk in the future. Now let me explain why I chose these 4 ingredients: flour, beans, oil, and salt. First, let's look at flour. Flour is the absolute cheapest ingredient you can buy. This 5-pound bag of Target brand flour set me back only $1.39. And at 8,250 calories, it's enough food to fill the average adult for a little over 4 days. Flour is even cheaper if you can buy it in bigger quantities, but 5-pound bags were the biggest that were available at Target, so this is what I got. Flour is very high in carbohydrates, but it also has protein and is usually enriched with some micronutrients like magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, sulfur, zinc, and selenium. Is white flour the healthiest grain you can eat? Not really. But it is by far the cheapest for most Americans, and if you need to save money on groceries, flour is a godsend. Assuming there aren't any major shortages due to a global pandemic. My favorite cheap food to make with flour is tortillas. All you really need is flour and water, and each tortilla, depending on how big you make it, will only set you back a couple pennies. Yes, pennies. Another favorite is noodles. I have videos showing in detail how to make tortillas and noodles in the video description if you want to learn how. Next up we have beans. Protein is essential. If you eat nothing but flour, you will be deficient in some of the essential amino acids that make up protein. Cultures all over the world have been combining grains with legumes to complete their proteins for centuries. Beans not only work with flour to make a complete protein, but they also give you fiber and other nutrients, including iron, thiamine, magnesium, phosphorus, and potassium. To save money, always buy your legumes dry instead of canned. Obviously, you'll also save even more money if you can buy your beans in bulk, but these 1-pound bags were all Target had, so that's what I went with. And at 99 cents per pound, that's still a great deal. You'll need to set aside a day to soak and cook pinto beans, but only about 5 minutes of that time is active, so with a little planning ahead, you can save a lot of money. Plus, beans just taste better when they're not canned. You can, of course, eat your cooked beans straight up, but my favorite cheap thing to make with beans is refried beans. I have a video showing in detail how to make refried beans from dried beans in the video description. And here's a confession. I don't really like beans. The texture and the flavor just turns me off. But frying them in oil and spices really turns them into something pretty good. And speaking of oil,
I finally found a reduced fat peanut spread.
Introducing reduced fat Hellmann's, only 1/3 the fat.
Introducing 99% fat-free Chef Boyardee.
Fat has gotten a bad rap over the years, but you actually do need fat in your diet for good health. And you also need fat for good cooking. Fat not only makes your food taste better, but it makes your food slide down easier and it makes you feel fuller longer. Vegetable oil is another great deal. This 48-ounce bottle provides you with 12,480 calories and only costs $1.99. Now, you wouldn't want to just chug a bottle of oil for your energy needs, but for just $2 of oil, you could fulfill an average adult's calorie requirements for almost a week. Adding oil to your flour and beans opens up a world of possibilities. Add oil to your noodles. Use oil to fry your beans. Make bean cakes out of flour and beans and fry them in oil. And yes, you can find all of these step-by-step videos in the video description. Another thing you can do with oil and flour is make a Cajun roux. It takes some patience, but the result is a dark, rich sauce that helps give body and flavor to soups and sauces. Speaking of flavor, Salt. Now, some of you might be thinking, why even include salt? It doesn't have any calories and it barely provides you with any micronutrients either. You could have saved 89 cents and spent just $5.36 on the week instead of $6.25. And I say, so you're cool with eating flavorless food? Plus, I never see salt factored into any of these extreme grocery budgeting videos that I've seen. Granted, a lot of these videos use processed foods like canned beans or cheese or store-bought tortillas or items that already have salt in them, but you'll ultimately save money in the long run if you can cook things from scratch. And this means you'll need salt. But don't worry, this pound of salt will last you a couple months at least. You may have spent almost $1 on it this week, but you won't have to spend money on salt for many weeks that follow, and you can spend that money instead on different food. So how would this $6.25 week work exactly? Assuming your calorie needs are 2,000 per day, you'll need 14,000 calories total in the week. This means if you ate all the flour and all the beans, that would take care of 10,130 calories. Use about 30 tablespoons of oil to cook your flour and beans. That's only 4 tablespoons a day, by the way, for an additional 3,900 calories, for a grand total of 14,030 calories for the week. And guess what? You'll have 2/3 of a bottle of oil and most of a pound of salt left over for the weeks to come. And you still have $3.75 left over from the $10 you originally took to Target. Now, if you're really hardcore, you could spend that additional $3.75 on another bag of flour and 2 more bags of beans and feed yourself for 2 weeks on just $9.62 and still have 1/3 of a bottle of oil and plenty of salt and 38 cents and the $10 from week 2 that you don't have to spend left over. That would mean that going into week 3, you would now have $20.38 to spend. And you'd still already have 1/3 of a bottle of oil and plenty of salt in your pantry. Now, admittedly, if you really went through with this plan and you only ate foods with oil and beans and flour and salt for 2 weeks straight, not only would your meals get really boring after a while, but you would start lacking some nutrients. But there are less hardcore versions of this plan. You could replace 1 fast food meal per week with $6.25 worth of cheap pantry staples like this: beans, flour, oil, rice, oats, peanut butter, lentils, dried pasta, and after a few months, you'd have a fully stocked pantry of dry goods to help bring your overall grocery bill down and give you the freedom to save up money to buy things in bulk or on sale to save even more money moving forward. A second, less hardcore version of this plan is that you could use these bean, flour, oil, salt recipes as a base and add small amounts of other ingredients for added nutrition and flavor. Add some tomato sauce to your homemade noodles, some veggies in your homemade noodles, some spices in your refried beans, or some rice and cheese for a burrito. Another less hardcore version of this plan is that you could simply replace 1 meal per day with something that is made with just flour, beans, oil, and salt, and you could save a lot of money. It is also worth noting that if you do have some extra money, more than just $10 a week, you can buy these things in bulk and save even more money. And it is also worth noting that in the richest country in the history of the world, nobody should have to go to such extreme measures just to not be hungry. But that's another video. Anyway, I hope that gave you some ideas on how to survive for less than $5 a week on groceries in the US. And again, if you want to know how to make some of these recipes that I was talking about, check the links in the video description below, or there might be some videos floating above my head right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.